Welcome to the Building Generational Wealth Money and Mental Health webinar by myself, Johanna, and my husband, Louis Lee. If you want to introduce yourself a little bit, my
Sure.
husband.
Of course. So my name is Louis. I'm a financial educator and licensed financial professional, and we work with an organization that teaches people how money works. So we're going to be talking about how that piece ties into the mental health piece in order to talk specifically on how we can apply the concepts to build generational wealth. So that's what we'll be diving into a little later today.
Awesome. Yes, and I'm Joanna. I am a licensed therapist in California and otherwise just a mental health educator. And I do have our websites there, howmanyworks.com/LLEE and groundedmotherhood.com. Those are the best ways to request more information and to get in contact with some of the stuff that we have happening. But as my husband mentioned, my role and our role here really is to provide education that we believe everybody should have because education is powerful, it can change lives. And in this specific webinar, we really are talking about generations. We are parents of a toddler, and when we think about the type of mindsets and relationships and skills that we want our daughter to have, it definitely puts things into perspective because it's not just about us anymore. It's also about what we're passing down to her. And as you might notice, as we have certain different reflection questions, there are questions that talk about how we grew up thinking about money. What are the mindsets and the emotions that come up? And all that stuff is connected to how our parents talked about it, how those around us talked about it. So, as always, little disclaimer that we're not here as your financial or mental health providers, but as educators and fellow humans. So some of the things that we'll talk about is just normalizing the connection between money and mental health, practicing some mindful money moments, redefining generational wealth, learning practical skills to start building the wealth you desire, including some foundational financial concepts that my husband will provide, and then learning where to receive support. If you are watching this recording, I do want to mention that the foundational financial concepts are not going to be recorded and included in this, but you can always schedule a free one-on-one follow-up with my husband at the website that we share. That's at the bottom there. So you can get that part of the class too, and then he'll be able to tailor it more to your specific needs. So I've always really enjoyed, or since I learned about this, really the perspective of all of us, like basically that we all have different lenses that we see the world through, right? Like if I'm wearing these glasses and they had like a pink lens, when I look around the world, everything will look a little bit pink. And my husband has lenses and they have green on them. Everything that he looks will look a little bit green. So in here, we really want to think about how we're seeing money. And sometimes we don't even realize the lenses that we're carrying or wearing when we look at money. Maybe we're looking at money through a lens of trauma or a lens of financial anxiety or a lens of scarcity or a lens of fear, right? Or a lens of power. Like if I just had more money, I would have more power. So really here we want to encourage you to maybe just take those lenses, put them down, look at them, and learn how to see money through a lens of mental health, of values and legacy, things that truly matter to you, not just what the world around us wants us to care about, but really what is important to you. So if I really want to value service, right? Then I can see money is a way that I can serve others, right? So that has a different impact than when I'm looking at money through like scarcity, like, oh, there's not enough and I have to keep it all and hold it close to me. So hopefully through the different exercises that we do today will really help you take off those lenses, even just for a moment, and then look at what would it look like to put a different set of lenses on. And it does take practice. So we're gonna do some breathing because that's what I like to lead us through. So we're gonna take a slow, deep breath in through your nose, and you're going to breathe in for about 4 seconds, hold it for about a couple seconds, and breathe out slowly. I will count us down on the screen, but as you're doing this, I really want you to like make sure you unclench your jaw, soften your shoulders, stretch if you need to, and reflect on the question, what comes up for you when you think about money? So let's take a deep breath in through our nose, hold, and breathe out. We'll do it two more times. Breathe in, breathe out. Last time, breathe in, breathe out. Now that we're a little bit more grounded, a little bit more connected, I want to hear from y'all who are on the other side. What comes up for you when you think about money? If you could throw it in the chat or just share out loud.
Yeah, I think a tool to do the things that I want to do in life.
I like that. That's awesome. Tool. And then, yeah, opportunity in the chat. Those are great. I feel like that's already a healthier way to see money than some of the things that other people might have how they might see money. So I'm going to be sharing used to experience life. Yeah, a tool used to experience life. That's another good one. So those are maybe like on the healthier side, right? Too, but these are some common responses just from being a human being and talking to people. I have heard all of these stress, right? I immediately feel anxious or tense. I like nope. Fear of not having enough. I worry I'll never feel financially secure. Scarcity mindset. There's never enough to go around. There's just never enough. Guilt or shame. I feel like I should be doing better with my money. There's also pressure or responsibility. So maybe when you think about money, you think about I have to carry the load for my family. I have to make sure that they're set up. Or avoidance, right? That's a very, very common one. Like I don't even like to think or talk about money. Don't like this is makes me uncomfortable. And then we also have people who relate money with freedom, right? Options, money means options and the ability to breathe or security. It's what makes me feel safe or grounded. Legacy or family. I want to break cycles and build something lasting. Personally, I feel like that's the one where I'm at currently, where it's like, all right, we're building health all over. And then hope or empowerment, which I feel like there. So I'm learning money can be a tool for change. Like we said, it's a tool, right? It's not the end all be all. It's not the thing that we put our hope in, but it is something that we just use as a resource and as a tool. So I hope that if you're watching this on the other side, whether it's the pre-recording or in another way, I just hope you know that it's normal to feel any of these and even just starting with the baseline of like, how am I currently feeling about money and how do I want to feel about money can already give you a little roadmap to plant a little seed of encouragement. Because I'm not gonna lie, I was definitely avoidance, scarcity, stress, fear, all of that, even just like 5 years ago. But in working with my husband and becoming more of a team with our finances, I do feel like, all right, we're making baby steps, we're making progress. It's not the end of the world. So I hope that for y'all too. And when we talk about money, it's more than just dollar signs and numbers, right? Our thoughts, our feelings, our habits around money aren't random. So they could be shaped by the stories that we lived and the ones that were passed down. So maybe our upbringing, right? Our socioeconomic status. I personally grew up more low income, and yes, money was a source of stress. There was never enough. It always felt like my mom was always working so many jobs to try to just feed and pay the rent. So, of course, I grew up feeling a little bit of anxiety around money. Like, all right, you need to make sure that you're always grinding or working, otherwise, you won't be able to eat. But that really kind of keeps you in a hustle mode that doesn't always allow you to step back and be like, okay, what am I building? How do I want to spend my time? There's also culture that influences. So I talk about culture like the water that we're swimming in. And just like if you were to ask a fish, hey, fish, how's the water? The fish is going to be like, what water? Because is it surrounded by it, right? So if you think about our current culture, we're surrounded by advertisements, right? Commercials, things yelling at us that we need to buy more. And we're also sometimes comparing ourselves to people who look like they're financially put together, but we don't know what their debt looks like. We don't know what their life looks like. Yes, maybe they have this fancy car and house online, but behind the scenes, they could be super mentally unhealthy because they have no real relationships and are in a ton of debt, right? So unfortunately, we have to be able to step back and see, okay, what is my culture teaching me about what's important? And is it like I get triggered nowadays when I see commercials around getting rid of like crows, what do they call crow's feet? Smiling or wrinkles on our face. Because it's like we're getting older. Like wrinkles is just part of getting older. But no, now we have this system that capitalizes on us feeling bad about our normal human condition to wrinkle up. And of course, it's a money machine too, right? Like if we can make people feel insecure about their wrinkles, then we can get more money up from them. So this is not saying like I'm against anything to get rid of them. I'm just saying be mindful of where you feel pulled, like I need to spend more money there and what's actually important to you. And then there's generational experiences, things that are just passed down. So if survival was something like you work 5 jobs, even if they don't pay good because you have to survive, then that kind of becomes the engine that you run on, right? It's like I just have to work, I just have to work. Even if let's say you have a job that is paying well, or you are in a financially more like stable situation. So really being able to step back and be like, okay, how am I feeling with money right now? What are the stories that I'm believing about money and how can I rewrite? So this what this next mindful moment is. We are going to take a deep breath. We're going to exhale slowly, all that. And then I'm going to encourage you as you're doing that to bring to mind one belief or message about money that you've carried, maybe from your childhood, your culture, your family, or experiences. And I really want you to kind of hold it in front of you and be like, okay, I believe that money is blank. And then think about, does this belief still serve me? Or is it something I'm ready to release or redefine? Okay, so I'm going to take a deep breath in, breathe out, take another deep breath in, breathe out, and bring to mind what is a belief or message about money that I've been carrying? Does this still serve me? Or am I ready to release it? So now I want to know for those on the other side of the screen, if you're able to either unmute yourself and share or type it in the chat. What is something about money that you've learned? And are you ready to let it go? Are you holding on? Where are we? So we have, I can learn more about money. This is a new perspective that serves me and my family. I like that. Yeah, because I do think that feeling overwhelmed with, I don't even know where to start. There's just so much to learn, can sometimes dip us into shutdown mode, right? Could be like, never mind. I don't even want to think about it. I'm over it. But being able to step back and say, is it true that I can't learn anything? No. What is true is that I can still learn more. We all have the capacity to continue to learn and to get support. And especially again, when we think about generations, how do I want my daughter to see money? And then how is it that I'm talking about money? And second, this one. Yep. Oh, thank goodness tax season is over. It's always stressful. That's definitely a common belief, common response. Awesome. So again, definitely encourage y'all. These are also good little like journaling topics. If you've never journaled, I definitely recommend it. It helps you kind of slow down, assess what's in your mind, what are the unconscious beliefs that you're just carrying around. And once you make them conscious, then you can decide, okay, how do I want to move forward? And these are a couple questions that can at least get you started with your messages around money and how you want to see them differently. So as we we've been talking about our past stories don't define our future, right? We have the power to rewrite them and to build holistic generational wealth, one belief, one habit, one sentence, one baby step at a time. So in this part, I want to just briefly speak on some of what generational wealth could encompass. So it's not just the passing down of money, though that could be one of it. It's also the intentional passing down of well-being. So mindset, right? Things like, am I able to regulate my emotions when I get a big feeling? So we have a toddler and she's full of big feelings. So as her parents, it's really trying to teach her, like, okay, it's okay to have feelings, but how do we cope with them? Maybe we need to breathe. Maybe we need to stomp. Maybe we need to look at a tree outside, right? So those are little things. Or self-worth. How do we see ourselves? Is it, oh, I see myself as someone who is capable and strong and valuable, or is it that I feel like I'm weak? So those kind of things get passed down too. And then financial literacy, right? What is our mindset around financial literacy? Do we think that we can always learn, or are we set on like, nope, I know what I know, and that's too bad because I'm struggling. So just being aware that that's one form of generational wealth. There's also the mental health, as we've talked about, a healing from some of this survival mode. And like, okay, maybe for generations, the people in my family have had to survive, have had to grind really hard, or, put their financial income above any wellness like mental health or physical health, but I get to do things differently. So that's where mental health might come in. There's also relationships, right? There's something called secure attachment in the mental health world. And that's when parents are able to build healthy bonds with their kids from a young age. And that sets them up for, like, the research is wild, but it sets them up for healthier relationships even in their adulthood. So if they had parents who were able to attune for the most part, connect with their kids, meet their needs, then kids grow up feeling like, okay, people can be trusted. No, I am worthy of love. People show up. And then when they're dating or married or whatever it might be, they have a more secure attachment versus somebody who maybe was abandoned or whose parents didn't show up. They might grow up with an insecure attachment and they walk around the world looking for, when is this person going to leave me? I know what's going to happen, right? Like waiting for the shoe to drop. So just to know that the way that you relate to your kids is also a huge form of wealth that will follow them forever. And it's not to say any pressure because it actually doesn't even require perfection. It doesn't require you to show up perfect. It just requires you to show up. So for me, a real example might be rupture and repair, right? If there are things in your relationship that you're like, ooh, that was not good, like I acted in a way I didn't mean to, you can always apologize. And that is the beautiful thing about relationships. They actually grow in this process of messing up and repairing, messing up and repairing. So unlike a lot of us recovering perfectionists like to think, it's not that we need to show up perfectly, it's just we just need to show up authentically and be like, you know what? I'm sorry, I yelled. I didn't mean to. I'm hungry, or whatever it might be. So just a little TED talk there on the importance of relationships and how that can be one of the biggest forms of wealth, I believe, as well. There's also communication, right? Is it when, let's say my husband and I have a disagreement, is it we both avoid it and push it down and then it bubbles up later? Or is it that we realize that really made me mad. Maybe we do take some time to process it and then come back together. Be like, I didn't like how you said that. The tone was off, right? And then that way my husband will start to understand like, oh, tone really matters to my wife. And he wouldn't have known that if I didn't communicate it, right? So there is sometimes it can feel like, well, if I don't bring it up, then it's going to be all right. But pushing things down will always come up. There is some type of pressure, buoyancy that will throw it up one time or another. So that's another way. And community, right? Are we teaching our child that community can be supported, that we can rely on others, that we need other people, or are we teaching them like nope, it's just you and me by myself. The world is trash and people are trash. That kind of, if you can imagine it, that sets us up to look at the world differently, right? And in certain seasons, we actually do need more support, and that's okay. It's not a weakness. So that's another form of generational wealth. Then there is like the spiritual and cultural wisdom. So what are the values that are we passing down? Is it compassion, service, generosity? Our faith, right? And a lot of times value and faith go hand in hand. So it's like, no, we do kind, we do good even when others don't. That is generational wealth because I can tell you there's a lot of petty people in our world, right? And that probably has just been cycles of like, yeah, when my mom got angry at somebody, she cut them off and cussed behind the back, whatever it might be. Or is it like, oh, that I saw my mom handle conflict with people, and even though they weren't kind to her, she was kind to them. Like that also sets up our kids and being like, okay, how do I move in the world even when things aren't going well? And then, of course, financial tools, right? There is, because even if somebody does have a lot of money financially by the numbers, that doesn't mean that they have financial or generational wealth or that they'll be able to keep it. Because there are also things like budgeting, knowing what's within your means and what's not, saving, investing, and giving in ways that align with your values. So as you can see, it's not just numbers, it is mindsets, behaviors, habits that start with us, which is why I think as a parent, parenting, I think is majority internal work. It's like, all right, what am I? How am I showing up? What mindset, beliefs, behaviors am I passing down in the way that I show up? So when we're able to nurture all of these, we are not only leaving behind money, but we're leaving a legacy, wholeness, and choices. And the goal isn't to build all of this overnight, right? That's not possible. But it's to pick one or two and say, okay, in this next season, I really want to grow my financial wealth, my financial education, so that I can pass that on to my children. And then just baby stepping. So that takes us to another mindful money moment. And we're going to do another breathing in, breathing out. And this time, I want you to reflect on a question. When you think about the kind of wealth you want to build and pass on, what comes to mind? All right, so we're going to take a deep breath in through your nose and breathe out. Take another deep breath in and breathe out. And take one more deep breath that just feels natural to you. And reflect. When you think about the kind of wealth you want to build and pass on, what comes to mind? So I'm curious to hear from those on the other side of the camera, what kind of wealth would you want to build and pass on?
If you can't hear me again, I would say understanding the concepts around money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's important. It's the concepts of money. There is so much that we're not taught and not taught accurately. But being able to have a good understanding, like I have a good understanding so that if my child or future child ever has questions, I can be a secure base for them. And lasting wealth. Yeah. Not just something that is this for just generation, a legacy that equips generations to come. I like it.
Thinking of is, like you were saying, reducing the anxiety around money. So, like open, honest communications about what's happening, and um, just transparency around money.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. I know a lot of us were raised or like, you don't talk about money, especially as a kid. It's like, that's not for you. But in reality, even kids can learn about financial literacy, right? We can teach them about saving and investing and tithing and all that. And you say healthy, honest conversations to continue building wealth. Yeah, I love that. Healthy, honest. Like those are big. Continue building wealth. I think it'd be cool to see, especially for myself. I'm kind of first generation into like what is all of this generational wealth and retirements and savings and all that. So it'd be cool to see our daughter and her relationship with money growing up. I know she's already going to be way ahead of where I was, way, way ahead. Awesome. So the awareness that you named, that's where growth begins, right? So I know we talked about the glasses in the beginning. So there are certain glasses lens that we wear that kind of taint our vision and say, money is scary, money is bad, money is everything, whatever it might be. But if we can put it down and we put it back on and we can say, okay, money is a tool, money is a resource, money is a way that we can build financial um, wealth for our family for generations to come, then you can keep that as the forefront, at least the focus. And it doesn't mean that those other glasses, the other lenses won't pop in. You're human and you've learned that way of seeing money over how many years. So it's going to take a practice of being like, oh, I'm wearing the glasses right now that make me anxious about money. Let me take those off. Let me take a deep breath. And let me figure out my next baby step, right? And then just doing that process over and over again until you realize, like, oh, I'm actually not thinking that way anymore or as much as I used to. So I want to share 3 practices to nurture your financial health. Honestly, this first one is for everything, pause and breathe. Like the moment that you start to feel any feeling in your body, any big feeling, any big thought, pause and take a deep breath. And specifically when it comes to money, it's before you spend, right? Asking yourself, do I really need this right now? Right? Do I really need this right now? So if you find yourself, because shopping is definitely a way that people find some immediate kind of dopamine release, immediate feel good. And I say immediate because it feels good in the moment, but then later when you're trying to figure out how am I going to pay all this debt, it doesn't feel so good. So really like adding things to carts and letting them sit there or giving yourself a budget before you even spend. That really helps us move from like a reactionary, like I feel this right now, so I'm gonna do this, to a response. And those are completely different. I have a toddler, like I mentioned. I have to constantly breathe. My husband knows this. Often so that I can respond and not react with how I want to react, right? Which might be a yelling or I don't know, like a whatever it might be. I'd be like, and breathe. No, we're not doing a lollipop right now. I love you so much. Bye. Whatever it might be. And that does make a big difference in how our kids experience us and even those around us. So that's one of them. A second one is just creating a gentle rhythm of review with your finances. So maybe this is a simple routine. You look at your finances once a month, right? Like I'm just going to look at my credit card statements or my banking statements, my all of whatever it might be that relates to money. And that could also even mean like making phone calls, right? I know that my husband and I dealt with slash dealing with a hospital bill, right? And anxiety was like avoid, avoid, avoid. And it still sometimes says that, but you can set up, okay, once a month, I'm going to look at things, phone calls that I can make to try to save money on something or to try to resolve a dispute, anything related to money using that time and meeting yourself with compassion and not criticism. So I actually just started, and we have somebody here who was part of it. So thank you, Cafecito and Coins. So we started with twice a month, and we might keep that rhythm going. But we're doing a Cafecito and Coins co-working call, right? So just for 40 minutes or so, we check in, or for an hour, we check in. We say, okay, this is what I'm going to work on for the next 40 minutes related to my financial health. We turn off our cameras, we do our thing, we come back together and we say, yes, I did that, or I got most of it done, or whatever it might be. So even something like that, I think we all need accountability sometimes because there's a million things that we could be doing with our time or think we should be doing, but if we don't prioritize it and seek support in that, then it's kind of hard to follow through, especially with something that causes anxiety or avoidance. And then last but not least, seeking continued education and support. So the fact that y'all are here, that's huge. I think that's already a big step in practicing and nurturing your financial health. So remember, financial wellness grows one baby step, one concept at a time, and growth thrives in community with accountability. So shout out to my husband again, Louis Lee, who is a financial educator and loves teaching about this stuff. He has a passion for it, more of a passion on the financial concepts than I do. I have more of the passion on the mental health, but I see how connected they are. So I think that's really cool that we get to do this together. So he will actually be sharing some of the financial concepts. Like I mentioned, I will have to start the recording after this next slide. But if you want to get that information, go to howmanywork.com/LLEE and contact my husband. I also will put a little survey in the description. And that's another way if you want to request books or partnerships or classes, whatever it might be, we're all about partnership and community. And speaking about growth, I have to talk to the mamas out there. That's I would say bread and butter, but it's my heart work is really helping mamas in the new transition into motherhood. Like, what does it look like to take care of your mental health, to slow down, to pour into you? So I have a few things happening. I have my Escuelita, which is like kind of like a video library of some courses for mamas. I have the podcast and the free little guide. So if you're ever curious or want to work with me or check out some of those resources, you can visit groundedmotherhood.com. But other than that, I'm gonna go ahead and stop recording. Thank you so much for tuning in, and yeah, we'll stay connected. Thank you so much for listening to this conversation. I want to encourage you to keep nurturing yourself and your journey in motherhood, or to share with a mama that you know. First of all, I would love if you could subscribe or follow along to the Millennial Theramom podcast, Instagram, and YouTube channel to show your love, to show your support, and to make sure this information gets out to all mamas and new parents. Secondly, definitely go ahead and grab your free Grounded Motherhood guide at millennialtheramom.com/free resource, or you can just look at the tabs on the website. Check out the Escuelita, our virtual learning community, also on millennialtheramom.com. And last but not least, you can explore the Grounded Motherhood Tiendita for cafecito links and few more goodies that are coming out soon, including a Spanglish poetry and journal. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope that you continue to nurture yourself and ground in your motherhood. Cuídense.